If you've been following the channel for a while, you might know that I want a Speedmaster, and it's highly likely that a Speedmaster will be the next watch that I get. There are just so many Speedmasters to choose from. I've got two with me now. I've got the standard, the Speedmaster Professional. This is the Hesalite version. I also have this thing, the latest white dial Speedmaster Professional, but this is a Saphire Sandwich. When I buy watches, I really enjoy watches that can do stuff, watches that have been built for a purpose. I did do a video talking about how stories around watches shouldn't really sway your buying decisions, but the fact that these are watches that have been signed off by NASA as a tool for astronauts to use, I am drawn to that, but I also feel like the Speedmaster is just a good looking watch. If the NASA connection, the space connection wasn't there, I still think the Speedmaster would maybe not be as popular, but it would certainly be a popular watch. The space stuff is just an added extra. It's just a cool talking point. Omega fanboys often criticize Rolex when they do tiny adjustments to their watches. But the reality is, and I've spoken about this in the past, is that when watch brands get things right from the start, then tiny adjustments, little tweaks is all that's required to bring things up to date and to modernize them. And that's exactly what Omega has done with this version, this generation of the Speedmaster. A lot of people label me as a Rolex fanboy, but when it comes down to Speedmaster versus Daytona, the Speedmaster wins hands down. It's just such a classy watch. So these two watches are specs-wise exactly the same. There is one big difference, and that is the fact that this has sapphire crystal on the front and back, and this black one has Hesalite on the front. So the black one is actually the space watch because NASA wanted a crystal that wasn't actually crystal. They wanted something that could be hit and it wouldn't shatter. Sapphire crystal, and I know from personal experience, sapphire crystal can shatter, and that would then render the watch broken. Downside to Hesalite is obviously it scratches really very easily, but in the same breath it cleans really very easily. I do like the aspect of sapphire crystal because it is scratch resistant, but one thing that really draws me to the Speedmaster is you do have this vintage looking watch, but built to modern standards. And that's what I like about Hesalite. It has this beautiful bubble dome about it. The sapphire crystal has a similar aspect to it, but there's a perfection, there's a clarity with the sapphire crystal. And you don't have that with the Hesalite. The Hesalite distorts towards the edge of the dial. And that is so iconically vintage. The case is 42mm wide, it's 47.5mm lug to lug. It's 13.18mm thick, it's got 20mm lugs, and it has 50 meters of water resistance. When it comes to a Speedmaster, you do need to try it on. Don't write it off or don't buy into the watch because it says 42mm. Because it's chronograph, it's got those big pushers on the side. It's also got a very flanged case. The case kind of spreads out with those lugs. So it's one of those watches you do just have to try on to see if it fits your wrist. Ever since Omega's updated the bracelet with this really vintage looking bracelet, but very solid bracelet. It feels fantastic, it looks fantastic, it's a tapered bracelet and it's so beautifully engineered. I do love the little oval links when you look at them from the side. The clasp has this nice vintage air about it, yet it is absolutely solid. It goes from 20mm down to 15mm, so the buckle is really quite dainty, but because of the other dimensions of the buckle, it still has a nice amount of heft and it feels solid to engage with, but it also has an on-the-fly adjustment inside. Although for the price, I feel like this little adjustment could have been engineered a little bit smoother, but I am nitpicking. One thing that I do love about the Saphire Sandwich is the fact you can see the movement in the back. It is a beautiful mini city, a mini world in there. And it looks absolutely fantastic, especially when you engage the chronograph and you see all the wheels spinning around. It is beautiful, and this is the updated version of the Speedmaster movement. The Master Chronometer Caliber 3861. It's a manual wind chronograph with, as mentioned, the coaxial escapement inside, which is also silicon, and it beats at 21,600 vibrations an hour, so slightly slower than a typical movement. This movement now has a coaxial escapement. It's also META certified, which means it's gone through really strict testing around magnetism, shock, and temperature changes, and the watch has to retain accuracy throughout those tests. In my eyes, from a design point of view, but also from a factual, technical point of view, this is the best Speedmaster that they've done so far. And that kind of brings me on to the white dial. I feel like this white dial, I did a video when this was announced because I just think it's absolutely stunning. The proportions are obviously right, but the dial color does play a factor on proportions because the different size of dial color can impact the visual perception of the dimensions of the watch. White typically looks large, black typically looks smaller. I love the traditional vintage iconic look of the black dial with the Hesalite crystal. Once you spend time with it, you start to notice the details. You look deeper into the dial, and that's where I feel the character comes out, especially with this version of the Speedmaster. It's got such a nicely satisfying stepped dial. The subdials are recessed into the dial, obviously adding depth to the look of the dial, but then also the minute tracker around the outside, there's a stepping down as well. And these little touches I find pleasing, and that's where I feel the character comes out. One thing that I've noticed, I think the dials are exactly the same, but the different angles and the different steps on the black dial stand out so much more than the white dial. When you look front on a white dial, it looks flat. It's hard to see that the subdials are sunken into the dial itself, and then you have the minute ring. It's kind of a chapter ring on the outside. It kind of falls away. Whereas on a black dial, it's a lot more obvious. But the white dial with that red text just brings this real clean vintage touch to it. I do love the drastic contrast between that lacquered white dial and then the diamond polished PVD coated indices and hand. The light plays with these so nicely. If I was to design a perfect Speedmaster, I would opt for matte indices and matte black hands. There's quite a big price difference with these watches. So the black dial with Hesalite is £6,600. That same watch, but with the sapphire crystal on the front and a sapphire crystal on the back, is $7,500, and the white dial with sapphire on the front, sapphire on the back is $7,600. The price does vary depending on what strap you get it on. One big draw about the Speedmaster is how stunning it looks on our straps. This has been thrown on my map because of you guys and the amount of photographs that you share on Instagram of our straps on a Speedmaster. There's something about the Speedmaster on a 20mm strap. The proportions are just right. And I think that's why the Speedmaster is such a popular watch, such a stunning watch. It's rare that all the aspects of a watch just come together and work perfectly. This isn't paid for by Omega, by the way. I just feel like the Speedmaster is just an absolutely killer watch. I kind of feel like I need one of these watches. I need it. It's like a business investment. You can get these straps and other accessories over at barkandjack.com. Let me know what your thoughts are. Are you team white sapphire crystal, or are you team black? Or are you team black with sapphire crystal? Drop a comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up button. If you like the style of this video, then hit the subscribe button down there and that little bell icon to get notifications when I drop a new video. If you're on Instagram, give me a follow at barkandjack. If you want to check out our watch straps and watch accessories, jump over to barkandjack.com. And I'll see you guys very soon, maybe with a decision. Take care.